This is the Shen and Shan Show, where Shenice, my mom,
and Shan the Pam
interview with LGBTQ plus professionals and entrepreneurs.
So let's get giddy and start the show.
All right. So my name is Shenice.
And I'm Shan.
And we're here with a really special guest, Jack Berger. I'm so excited to have you on, Jack. How do we know Jack, Shan?
How did we first meet Jack? I actually met Jack when I met you.
The same night?
The same night. We were sitting at a table at Guava Lamp, and we were all having a conversation.
Yeah. And it was an event for the Greater Houston LGBT Chamber of Commerce. So that's how Shan and I met.
It's like we were double dating, but we wasn't together because his partner was there. So, yeah.
Well, you made a good choice.
Oh, thank you.
Awesome. So, Jack, we are here to learn all about you. So please give us your life story in short version. Let's hear it.
Right. Let's condense 61 years into a few sentences. So I am the oldest son of two siblings. I have a younger brother and a younger sister. I was born in Brooklyn, New York, raised in upstate New York in Syracuse, where I went to college and got a dual degree in journalism and psychology, which I think if you put the two things together, I'm pretty good at writing and try to figure out people. I've been people watching, trying to figure out what people do and forever. I got kind of lucky with the first job out of school. I was actually working full-time as an advertising designer and salesperson for my college newspaper. And at Syracuse, it's probably one of the top, 8 or 10 student newspapers in the country. And the cost of an ad in the Daily Orange was more expensive than the two local newspapers in town.
Oh, wow.
The demographic of the Syracuse student was such that it allowed us to, charge a higher rate. And anyway, I was enjoying the job, applied for an opportunity with the Olympic Committee, the U.S. Olympic Committee. I was hosting an event called, back then, the National Sports Festival. And the concept was provide an outlet for Olympic athletes in non-Olympic years so that when they went to the Olympic Games, it wasn't like this, oh my God, I've never been anywhere like this before. If they had done a major event, maybe 2 or 3 times in between Olympic Games, they'd be better prepared. So that was our goal. 38 sports. It was a blast. I wrote 70 something press releases in 60 days, which was not the right thing to do from a marketing standpoint, but it's how we did it then. And I was a good soldier. I interviewed for a position similar for the following year in Indianapolis while still working in Syracuse. I'd never been further west than Columbus, Ohio, and packed up the car and moved to Indianapolis. Loved it. Was there for a year. Moved to Colorado Springs for another year. Went back to Indianapolis. This was 1983. The opportunity was go to Los Angeles, where they were hosting the Olympic Games in 1984, and be one of 20 or 30 PR employees on the staff, or go to Indianapolis, which was becoming the amateur sports capital of the world, and get in on the ground floor and actually think about a career. I was there for 2 years when Syracuse called and said, we're creating a full-time office to go after sporting events like they have in Indianapolis. Would you be interested? I got that job, spent a couple of years there before I came down to Houston, and I've been here ever since. And
so you basically, they moved you to Houston.
Correct. My job was part of the Greater Houston Convention and Visitors Bureau, and it made a ton of sense. The sports market, if you will, was only behind statewide conventions like the Texas Association of Dentists or paralegals or notary publics or whatever, those kind of state meetings. The sports segment ended up doing quite well in terms of putting heads in beds. So we could go after maybe an AAU tournament or a gay bowling organization that was having a national event. Or we hosted the Olympic trials in cycling and the national championships in gymnastics and racquetball. I mean, racquetball seems like just a fun sport. Well, the downtown YMCA, the old version of it, had 20-something courts. It was perfect for a national championship. And when 900 people come in the summer for a 5-day stay, it's a great economic impact. It's a lot of hotel revenue and taxes. And, they all bring, one or two guests with them. They're eating out, they're buying stuff. And, so that was where I thought I was going to spend my career until, it just took a little pivot and the LGBT kicked in.
Yeah. So what led you to Outsmart, where you are now?
Well, the interesting story was I had been working on my own, trying to do some marketing. I had some sports clients. I helped open Wildcat Golf Club and I was actually working for the Houston Dynamo at the time as the premium seating director. But I was a little curious about the LGBT community, and I saw in Outsmart while I was at dinner one night that they were hiring salespeople. And a year later, I got a call and they asked if there was any way I might be still looking. And I was like, not really loving this job. Let's talk. And I came on board, and I think day 2, I sold an ad to a concert promoter for a Cindy Lauper event, and the rest is history.
Right.
15 years later.
And how long ago? How long have you been with Outsmart?
So it's been since 2005. I had a 1-year little break where I made a little bit of a career misstep, and I thought the grass was a little greener. So I went to work on another publication that sounded like a good idea to be the first same-sex wedding magazine in the state of Texas. But it wasn't quite what I had been promised. So I ended up coming back, actually. So it's been about 15, 16 years.
One more question. Now, and just before we start diving in any deeper, could you tell us exactly what Outsmart is, what you focus on?
Sure.
What exactly is the magazine? Mm-hmm.
So Outsmart basically is what I like to consider the voice of Houston's LGBTQ plus community. We are a monthly print publication, but we also have a website and a pretty strong social media platform. So anything that relates to the LGBT community, from profiles to calendars to features, and we've morphed greatly. I mean, we used to really focus a lot on entertainment and politics. Now there's so much going on. It was interesting. I like to tell people 4 years ago, if the election would have come out differently, would we even need LGBT media? You see in a lot of different niche markets, print is shrinking. There's just just as there are fewer and fewer LGBT bars and other opportunities, it was almost like, wow, what if when we have gay marriage, what if it's, really cool to be gay? and now it's not that big a deal, but obviously it didn't go the way we had hoped. And it's very important that we stay in existence.
Right.
We've been around for 27 years. I'm proud to say one local owner, the publisher, Greg Zhu, has been here. 318, I think, consecutive months through hurricanes, pandemics. Um, you know, um, this is the current issue, our June issue. It should have been the big Pride issue. I can turn it a little sideways. You can see this was last year.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah, that's a huge difference.
this was 214 pages, was the biggest in the history of the magazine. And my commission check was really good. And so this year we made it to 96, which wasn't horrible, but compared to 214, that's a big drop.
And that's because
but
of COVID.
That's all because of COVID. And, you know, obviously without a parade and the festival, you know, we don't have the pages on the grand marshals and the parade route and what's happening and all of those features, but also the advertising is way down. A lot of budgets were either frozen or, you know, obviously if you run a cruise company and you're not doing anything, you don't really need to advertise. And, you know, without a crystal ball knowing when things are coming back, a lot of people just put a lot of their marketing on hold. But even in different industries, one of our chamber members is an immigration attorney, and he furloughed 75 employees. And it was like, wow. I mean, you know, so I understand why his quarter page is, you know, just not needed right now. And it's not difficult to understand. And we obviously we feel for these folks. So, you know, luckily we made it through, and hopefully on the other side we'll come out strong. And thank goodness, like certain industries like insurance and real estate and banking really I don't want to say they haven't been affected because everyone has, but at least they still have kept their commitments. And we've had a lot of wonderful support from people who, you know, have just said, how can we help? And so shout out to Silver Eagle, Bud Light, and some of our other fabulous advertisers that have stuck with us.
That's amazing. I mean, at a time like this, you know, a lot of companies, individuals, some things that we value, like the Outsmart magazine, need that extra bit of support, you know, along with many other businesses. So,
yeah,
time.
You know, I thought we might have to go all digital if we lost all of our distribution outlets, but really it was probably only around 10%. I mean, obviously the bars weren't open, so we couldn't deliver, but for the most part, you know, we were still able to have, you know, a home for these magazines. It's one thing to print it. Yeah, I got it. Although the flip side, or the good side, our numbers for online went way up. So we're now well over 100,000 unique visitors to our website each month. So, you know, we're developing new products all the time, especially when it comes to the online platform.
Right, definitely. Okay. Now, what does your like day to day look like? Do you have a schedule? Or what?
Yeah, the great thing is no 2 days are alike.
Okay.
And it's really it's a little different during the pandemic because you're not doing as much, you know, obviously going to see clients, you know, scheduling lunch meetings. And you know, Shenice, you and I had a nice lunch meeting to discuss advertising and that type of thing.
Right.
So there's been a little bit of a shift. There's a lot of, you know, we do the typical sales things. You need to make 20 calls a day. And, you know, so we do set those kind of goals and try to move the needle as best we can. Keep the pipeline full and always fun marketing because, you know what, it works. You don't make calls, you got nothing in the pipeline, you know. And for me, I like to get this out, networking as often as possible. You just never know. And it was interesting. About this time last year, I had met a potential advertiser through the chamber, the LGBT Chamber of Commerce here. and they invited me to a luncheon with a bunch of a networking luncheon that they were hosting. And so it was interesting to be the sold, not the seller, the seller.
Yeah, definitely.
And the other side was I had said yes because it was at Trulux, and who doesn't like a free meal at Trulux? But it wasn't all LGBT. And when you work for LGBT magazine, you start to get in this nice little comfort zone. And all of a sudden, I thought, gee, am I the only gay person in the room?
Right.
So I kind of, I'm not usually a wallflower. And I kind of like took a little bit of a back seat and listened to the program and gave my quick little elevator speech. And as it turned out, the gentleman 2 seats down gave me the wink that he and his partner had just opened a new business. And he wanted to advertise and later became one of my clients. And then there was a couple to my right. She was already a client of the magazine through her company, but her husband owned a couple of doggy daycare and pampering kind of places. And they became clients.
Right.
So, you know,
that was like a whole new market for you.
Yeah. Oh my God, I'm scared, to go in, and yet I ended up with 2 clients. So, know, the worst thing is, what is it? An hour out of your life? You sometimes just have to take a shot and take a chance. Yeah. And that's what I always think, like, a typical day may in theory be 9 to 5, but usually, have some sort of networking event. Might be early in the morning, maybe after work. And then I've got a couple of fun part-time things that I do that technically are work-ish because I get paid, but I usually use them more for marketing and fun. And so, I've always got a card, always got a story, 7, what is it? 7 steps to Kevin Bacon, or whatever that is. Just look for tells. And it was funny when I worked at the golf course, one of the bosses who was more of a numbers guy kept saying, "Why are you always in the clubhouse?" Or, why don't get back in your office and make phone calls. And I think, you know what? I look around, you look at, everyone's got like labeled golf shirts, and if they have a thing that says that they're Florida State alumni, you just ask them a quick question. Hey, do you guys have a tournament? Well, yes, we do. They're already sold on your venue.
Right.
Boom.
Right.
Here's a pen. Sign them up.
Right.
And it would be kind of weird that you can find business almost anywhere.
Right.
I'm part of an organization called the Central Houston Event Planners, and it's more of a hospitality group. They're wedding planning folks. We have a wedding section. It's not a ton of money that it generates for me, but it's a different marketplace. And again, you never know. I always tell everybody,
can't put all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, one of my big BMW dealers started out like a 1/9 of a page with one of the sales guys, and it built into a full page over time because it just made sense. So you don't ever know, but the answer is no till you ask, kind of thing. And so if they say no, it's not a big deal. I mean, people are being sold all the time. You know?
I mean, in every single business they're selling. I mean, whether you like it or not, you're being sold with every advertisement that comes on the TV, social media. I mean, Facebook, there's always something you're being sold. And that, I mean, it's an essential. Businesses would not be in business if they did not have sales.
And it's interesting. I for a very short period of time, I sold basically investment public relations. That if you had a small business, let's say you were on, the pink sheets, you weren't even, a traded stock technically,
right?
But you needed PR, you needed marketing. Now, we got paid in a little bit of cash and a lot of stock. And, that was worth 3 cents a share at the time. But if you did your job and it went to $1,
right? I mean, that
could be considered
crazy. 33 times
NASDAQ or something. Yeah. But oh my God, that was like, it was hard because you don't really love the product.
Right.
You know, this I can tell all day. This is easy. This is our community. This is a demographic that has backup. That you know that the for all the stereotypes and things like that, most of them are really super good. And you know, you've got a loyal community. You've got a well-educated community. You know, until recently, most of them didn't have kids still, so they had some money.
Right.
But you know, it's been an interesting little circuit to get here, but I don't think I would have changed anything.
Okay, so we want to figure out how to get your commissions up. So this next question that I'm going to ask, maybe it'll help you get those commissions up. You know.
Okay, thank you.
Who is your customer?
Yeah, it can be anyone. That's the beauty of it. If a business or a service is interested in reaching, and it's funny because they all times will just say, you know, the Houston LGBTQ community, but that's not the only reader of Outsmart. If you're cool and you live in the neighborhood, or you know, our biggest demographic areas obviously still inside the loop, but it's not exclusive. A lot of people come into town from Katy or Pearland or Kingwood, and they'll come in either to a restaurant or a club or a venue. Geez, go to a drag show. It's like almost like not gay anymore. All straight ladies and things like that. There was I was doing some PR for one of the big bars a couple of years ago, and it was, you know, did we want to take the business of the straight bachelorette party? Because it's ruining the gay bar vibe to have these lovely young ladies that were there. But so get back to your original question. It can be anyone. I mean, it's really the cool thing about Outsmart is it's A, affordable, B, it does reach a solid audience. You can be as creative as you want. You don't always have to play by some of the same norms as the real world. If you want to, you know, make a statement or, you know, stand out, you know, as long as it's in good taste. We've turned down a lot of ads over the years. We're not what I would call a bar rag. That's not our market. We're not. But you know what? If you're selling underwear, we will put your underwear wearing model in the magazine. I mean, that's fine. You know, we have some flexibility on that type of thing that we really can put some really cool packages together now with both print and the electronics. So
I'm sure y'all are on all the social media channels too, right? So
right. Yeah. And I always tell people, you know, give us a shot. You know, give us, you know, if it's not working, kick us to the curb. I mean, like any other advertising opportunity. But also depending on what market you are in, you know, there's, you know, everybody needs a dentist, you know, so the fact that we have 5 or so dentists, that doesn't mean we're full up. I mean, we've got a bunch of realtors, but again, we're dealing with a community that's important.
Right.
So, you know, you need to, but it can't be a vacuum, you know, it just can't be, well, advertise 3 times, you know, like going to the gym. The more you do it, the better off you're going to be. Have some consistency. I'd rather see somebody in a smaller ad for a longer period of time than say, okay, I'll try half a page for a month and see how it works. Save your money. You know, that's not in either of our best interests. I'd rather put you in something that's more manageable and have you in for the long haul, and then figure out how to back that up. That could be through the Chamber of Commerce. It could be through an event sponsorship. You know, we have had, even since I've been here, we had some pretty good turnover in what I like to call the icon of the community, where Dr. Bruce Smith was like sort of dentist to the gays for a very long period of time. We have like iconic long time, Rob Schmerler, State Farm, and Ray Hill in real estate. We had people have made quite a nice living, sort of not exclusively, but having their core business within the community that they've figured out a nice little niche, and then it'll expand from there just because the community is great at referrals, especially if you've done a good job. The back before you kids were born, the old stereotype was telephone, telegraph, telgay. And, if you
That's so funny.
are doing a
I've never
good
heard that
job,
before.
because they don't have telegraphs anymore. But, it's important. You do have to back it up somewhere, but then, it's like, wow, I saw you guys at a meeting. I saw you at this fundraiser, and boom, there's your ad. And I might not need it today, it's funny. You only need LASIK once, right? But you need a dentist all the time. Maybe
Right.
your insurance guy, more than just once.
Right.
And the community is filled with amazing talent. And, now, when I could have come out at 22. I knew I was gay. But, the gays that I knew in Syracuse, New York were florists, flight attendants, and hairdressers. And I worked in sports. So how did that work?
Right.
That doesn't fit into the little box. And then moving to Indiana, it was like, we'll keep this really quiet.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
That was a different time that, I don't think you guys are familiar with the phenomenon of toe tapping, and the senator that got caught, toe tapping under, but, there weren't, I think the gay bar in Indianapolis, which is the 12th largest city in the country, was gay on Wednesdays and Saturdays. The rest of the week, it wasn't gay. Apparently, that's all you needed was 2 nights.
Wow.
And so there was a lot of, on the down low, there was a cruising area around the public library, which was fine in the summer, but, in the winter, it's cold. You can't ride around with your windows open
Right.
or try to find a date. So, it was different place, different time. Now it's between social apps and things like that. It's just a little different. But when it comes to marketing this community, well, I love the fact that it's robust, it's big. Sometimes it feels kind of small because we sort of know a lot of the same people, but at the same time, there's some fabulous work being done, whether it's for fundraising or the arts or different organizations. We are so far ahead of a lot of different cities that we kind of forget and take it for granted. And
Definitely.
Have a resource like the Montrose Center that's able to give money away during the pandemic or after the hurricane. I did a project with Kent Lofton, the director of development at Montrose Center, with my client Mitchell Gold and Bob Williams, where we did a furniture donation day, and families came over and were able to, they were assigned a number, and they could walk through their warehouse and just like pick until they got to their number, dollars worth. And it was a blast. And,
Yeah. Well, I know, Jack, you're so involved with so many different organizations. You work on a lot of projects, but you also give so much of your time to different organizations, especially in the LGBTQ community. So I know, obviously we know Jack from the Chamber, the Greater Houston LGBT Chamber of Commerce, but you're also involved in other organizations, right? And I'm assuming, and this is just from the business standpoint, it sounds like most of your business comes from you networking, but also,
Absolutely.
You're also out there getting involved in addition to networking. So what are some of the other organizations you're involved with?
Well, one of the things when I first came out, there was an organization called Fathers First, and it was for guys just like me who had kids the old-fashioned way. It wasn't an adoption. It wasn't a surrogate. It was
Yes.
that. And so I was very involved with them. And I met a guy who was involved with this organization called Bunnies on the Bayou. And I was totally intrigued because one of the things that was important was that I wanted to be able to, you know, give something to the community. But, you know, when you have two kids that eventually are going to go to college and, you know, first I was paying a lot of child support to my lovely ex-wife. And, you know, I have 1 year left with my youngest at Texas A&M. So I knew that if I could donate an hour or two of my time and it would generate a bunch of money, that was just as good as writing a check. And so I joined the Bunnies. For those in the listening audience that aren't unfamiliar, the organization started 41 years ago. And it was basically a pool party in the neighborhood around the Easter holiday. It had a bad word in its title. It was the Bunny F Party. But because that's what bunnies do best.
Right.
And,
Right.
in the AIDS era, it became a fundraising event. It started out to be a filler of the LGBT food pantry. And then they started to add a donation portion, like a ticket. And it's always been kind of an open bar kind of concept for TABC rules. Now we don't say we never would say all you can drink. But it's basically an outdoor cocktail party. It's a blast. The first time I went 15 years ago, I was a guest of the Bud Light folks. It's over Eagle, and my head was on a swivel. It was the first event I was ever at where I wasn't in the minority. If that makes any sense, like, wow, there's 2,500 gay people here. That has never happened to me before in my life. And as a non-drinker, I was like walking around with my Ozarka bottle the whole time thinking, I need to figure out how to get involved so I don't look like this weirdo just like staring at people.
Not drinking.
Because it was so cool. I mean, It was just like the expression and the love and people hugging each other and just, God, it was such a really cool thing. And at the time, they were raising $40,000 a year for LGBT charities.
And how long ago was this, Jack?
That was right about the same time, like 2005, when it was first coming out.
Okay.
And it's always on Easter Sunday. And so I got involved as a host. And about 3 or 4 years later, I had risen to president. And usually it's a 2-year term. I did 2 years. There was somebody replaced me, and then they had to leave. So I ended up going back. And so I ended up being president for about 4 years, at which time I signed checks for over $500,000 to local LGBT charities.
Oh,
and,
wow.
You know, that's just, first of all, it's really empowering. And it really makes you feel like you're making a difference. And it was really kind of neat because I became friends with a lot of the nonprofits and the beneficiaries. And again, I hate to say that it all goes back to marketing, but obviously it does. I mean, if you're giving $15,000, $18,000, you know, and people are asking me to be on their board, and you know, certain hours in the day kind of thing, let me get through this and then we can talk. But that project really kind of set me up for learning more about what different organizations were doing. So I did accept posts on the Gay Men's Chorus Board and then the Lesbian Health Initiative Board, where I always like to say I was the only guy on the board, but not the butchest board member.
Okay, Jack. You're so funny. I mean, really some of these organizations you're talking about, I've never even heard of them before.
Right. And see, and that's what really makes it interesting. I mean, 10 years ago, the Gay Men's Chorus used to have quarterly programs at Jones Hall downtown with 3,000 people watching and 75 voices on stage and all volunteer. I mean, not every now and then they had somebody really talented. I mean, but it was just the effort. It didn't matter what they sounded like. It was the impression. I mean, Turtle Creek Choir and Chorale, whatever is in Dallas, they're amazing. The New York Gay Men's Chorus.
Yeah.
It's hard because people need, they need marketing help. They put you on the board because, they hope you can raise $3,000 or $5,000. I have this weird gift of being able to, con is the wrong word, but extract auction items from different companies. I have here on my desk even a pair of lovely fancy sunglasses from Montrose Eye Care that will be in the next auction because they just barely missed the last one. But there's it's not hard. You just ask. Again, it's all part of the marketing.
Relationships. I mean, you've put your time, energy, your life, your work into.
Yes. I mean, people would kill for my list, and I try not to abuse it because before you know it, they see your name pop up on caller ID, and they're like, "Oh no, I'm doing that." I learned my lesson. But you try to space it out. You try to make sure it's for a good cause.
Right.
So Bunnies was like the first really jumping in thing, and I'm still a part of it. I love the organization. This year, unfortunately, they had to cancel because of COVID, but last year they donated $165,000 to different LGBT communities, all local.
Wow.
I'm not anti-HRC and Victory Fund, love all that stuff. Glad they do that. I wanted my time and energy and money to impact Houston programs. So that was just what I placed importance on. The other organization I'm currently involved with is called EPA, the Executive Professional Association of Houston, which is the oldest LGBT networking group in the city here. And I think either 42 or 43 years. We just had the anniversary party, but I've been the president for 3 years. We have a monthly dinner meeting. I've been very fortunate that people have been very responsive to where I've selected. And again, this is kind of cool because I hate to say I'm a committee of one, but if you advertise with me, there's a good chance you may host a dinner for 100 people on a Tuesday night with 80 to 100 LGBT professionals who will, pay for drinks at happy hour and then have dinner. It's a nice little.
We've attended. I mean, it's
a nice booster shot on a Tuesday if you're the venue, but you don't get that or even know about it if you don't know me.
Right.
And it's like,
we attended because of you, and I know y'all are definitely the organization is pretty much by invitation.
Right. It is. It's an open group. It was really funny because this year we had a non-LGBT member apply.
Mm-hmm.
I, as president, sponsored her membership and got a little bit of flack from a couple of longtime members who thought I had invaded their last bastion of gay and lesbian, I don't know. It just didn't make any sense. I mean, it's like, okay, this person is really involved in the community, does other LGBT things.
They're a huge ally.
It's on diversity program, for the legal community. Why would I say you can't try? And we have nothing that says you have to be LGBT. And
Yeah, we can't be fighting for things to be inclusive, and if we're excluded.
and then turn around and say, whoa, and what is there, a test? I mean, come on. I mean, that's just silly. And so, every now and then you dig your high heels in. You say, this is too important. We're not going to let you guys make this mistake. You all need to.
Right.
So.
This show is supported by Empower Financial, where we help you protect, grow, and build wealth through life insurance and retirement planning.
At a minimum, everyone, protect your family with at least 10 times your income in permanent life insurance. Have a safety net in case you become ill, or you can use the cash value in retirement as tax-free income. So reach out to us from our website at www.empowerfinanciallife.com or click the link in the show notes.
So, I tend to like to be in leadership positions. If you're not the lead dog, the view doesn't change, kind of thing. So, but the good thing is there's lots of wonderful worker bees out there who don't, want that. I always laugh about it and say, I never met a microphone I didn't like. I never want to back away from the chance to be the ham or the jokester or the clown a little bit and put people at ease, but at the same time, make it fun. I mean, It's still, all of my dinners have a raffle prize or two that we never really had. But sometimes you just have to think through some of these things. We were spending like a ton of money on these dinners, and I just looked at it and said, well, part of this fee is like $7 for dessert. By the time you have your wedge of pie or cake and pay tax and tip, it's like, this is silly. We can go down the street to Katie and Berger, who is part of our community, and get a sheet cake for $65, which is $1 a person,
right?
$7. So it's sometimes it's common sense. Sometimes, again, part of it was to bring in another part of the community that would benefit from selling another.
Let's support each other. Let's support all the businesses.
Right. I mean, it doesn't sound like a big deal, but by the end of the year, it's $1,000. Yeah. And if somebody tasted it and liked it and asked me where it's from, there's a new customer. So you can't underestimate, the power of the networking. And that's, for me, it's a lifeblood. And, sometimes it takes 12 hours, sometimes it takes 12 months, if you don't, but it doesn't mean you don't put the effort in. And that's the whole, that's the whole fun or the game of it. No one promised you it was going to be easy. And, I was joking with my partner, I think it was February. I said, I don't think I've had this much money in my checking account since before I was married. And boom, there goes COVID. So, but that's okay. I mean, it's just like, okay, what else you got? These are just challenges. They're opportunities. And, the same thing on the volunteer front. These guys at the Mantra Center were really smart. They asked me to chair their fall gala. And I really wasn't thinking that was something that they wanted to do. But then they made the smart move of asking my partner and I to do it as a team. And because he is not from here, and I feel like I've just dropped him into everything that I do. They make fun of him at Ep2. He's the first lady. So he has a Melania name tag, which she hates. But, that was really smart on their part to ask us to do it as a team, because now I'm not saying no. I'm going to do something with him that's good for the community. So,
right. Well, I know that, you have a partner now, right? But
3 years.
How many years?
3.
3 years.
March,
Congrats. That's awesome. But you also, like you said, had kids the old-fashioned way, meaning were you married once?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. So
7 of the happiest years of my life.
Oh,
which is bad. Out of the 14, we were married.
All right. So with us going that way, are you out in your business?
Yeah, when you work for a gay magazine, that makes it really easy.
I know. I kind of.
It was really kind of interesting. I don't know if any other folks have gone through this process, but when you tell the first person and they're like, and they don't make a big deal out of it.
Would you saying
Yeah.
that telling the first person? How about you start off with your coming out story?
So, okay. So when I moved to Houston, I lived on Heights Boulevard. There were 6 townhouses, 5, including me, were gay owned.
Wow.
With one straight couple. And I wasn't officially out because I worked at the Convention Bureau. But I traveled a lot. So I could sort of, when you live in Colorado Springs and Indianapolis, I had never been part of a gay community before. So I really wasn't sure how to adapt. So I kind of was dating a little bit in the gay community, but then I met this really nice Jewish girl and I thought, oh, my mom's going to be really happy. And we met actually at the Houston JCs, which is a volunteer organization. She tried to recruit me to attend the event that she was in charge of, which was a Toys for Tots event. And I said, well, I don't know. Are you going to help me with my basketball tournament that I have for the high school kids? And she says, when is it? I said, well, it's 3 days after Hanukkah. She said, you're Jewish? I said, yep. And your mother's going to love me. And the rest was history. And so I kind of thought I had pushed all the gay stuff aside, but her stepmom was in the art community. She had a lot of gay friends.
Okay.
And some of them were invited to our engagement party. And before the actual engagement party happened, they pulled her aside, stepmom aside, and said, we think he's gay.
Oh, wow.
So I had the family intervention. And I agreed to go see a psychologist.
Wow.
And the wedding was pushed from spring to fall.
All because her friends kind of said,
her parents. It was her stepmom's friends.
Friends, right?
That said something, and so they confronted me, and I basically said, I've had a couple of experiences, but I've never had like a boyfriend or anything like that. So I've just sort of been experimenting, but so the nice thing is going to a therapist is confidential. So it's not like they got the full report. They got my report. And I told them what they wanted to hear. And that was, I got this. If I would have been honest, who knows?
Right.
But then I wouldn't be a dad, and the journey wouldn't have happened quite this way.
Like a part of your
the nice thing is she doesn't hate me. I didn't leave her for another woman. I didn't even leave her for another guy. I didn't. It wasn't like dating. It's really hard to be single, gay in Katy, Texas, with 2 kids. And even though I only had them on Wednesdays and every other weekend, it's still hard to develop friendships and relationships and things like that. So it was easier just to be single and get involved in projects and coach basketball and soccer and do the kid thing. Again, I have a terrific extended family. The in-laws still, after being divorced for 14 or 15 years, still invite me to every family gathering, every holiday, everything. My ex-wife and her second husband and my partner and I went to College Station 2 weeks ago to make dinner for my son for his 21st birthday.
Oh, wow.
We built him a bar so he could drink. Yeah. So it's all good. It's all
man, if that's
positive.
not inspirational for somebody, I don't know what is. That's amazing.
Yeah. It's interesting because we used to go to these with the dad's group I was telling you about, and everyone would do this story and they'd kind of hate me because, my ex-wife was a nut job. And some of the guys would go just to feel better, hoping somebody had a crazier experience than they did. But I didn't. I was very fortunate. And so the outsmart portion, like I said, kind of propelled the coming out story. That all of a sudden I could be really comfortable.
Yeah.
And when I came to work here, there was one other salesman, and he actually was a defrocked Catholic priest. And so I would listen to his stories and things like that. And Thomas was amazing. He wore a different brooch every day. And one day I came in an Oakland A's little wind shirt on, because I had been working in the sports community in the sports world for 15 years before I went to Outsmart. And he said, "Oh, that is a lovely blouse." And I was like, "No." And who are the athletic? It's like, it was a challenge, but it was okay. Luckily, we had one of our fabulous editors was a sports loving young lady, and so I could talk football with her because I couldn't do it with the guys around. I am a sporty gay. Like I said, I'm a super proud dad. Somehow I raised two rednecks. My sons are both. Ben is an A&M graduate, and Evan will be shortly.
And they're both straight?
As far as I can tell, they got real cute girlfriends.
Well, I was going to ask,
really
did you have to, I'm assuming you had to come out to your sons at some point.
That was the only thing that I struggled with, because my ex-wife didn't think they were ready. If my kids were backward, the younger one's way more mature and would have handled it without a problem. But she didn't want to, send them to therapy, and make them crazy. So because I wasn't like in a serious relationship, I didn't introduce them to any guy I went on a date with. And it was like, geez, I work for Outsmart. I'm the president of Bunnies. If they Google me, it's not that hard. And it was funny because my oldest was in high school, and the girl he was dating, we went over to their house for a Super Bowl party. And her mom says to me, "Hey, I've got a lesbian friend that needs a job. Can you help me help her out?" And I was like, "Why would you ask that?" And she's like, I was like, "Does Ben know?" And she goes, "I don't think so." And, he was probably 17 we really never officially kind of danced around it. My ex-wife wasn't a lot of help in that area. Because I think one time the younger one asked if, "Hey, is dad gay?" or something like that. And all she said was, "Well, he does go to Las Vegas with his friend Sherry quite often." I was like, really? That's as platonic as it could possibly be. But, we really didn't have that. The only thing I was worried about was that if you don't come out like right off the bat kind of thing, do they think, that you're ashamed that you're gay, or that you didn't trust them or something? I don't know. When it officially became evident that we didn't have to worry about tiptoeing, my oldest was helping us move, and I literally went 3 doors down from a loft that my landlord had to one of his apartments. And he and Kevin were in the bedroom putting our bed together. And Ben had suggested some reinforcements for when things get crazy. And, when your son does that, you're like, okay.
Yeah, this is pretty obvious. I mean, this is...
Yeah, it's a 1-bedroom apartment. Come on. We're not roommates trying to save $1.
Yeah.
So, it wasn't. After that part, it was just a lot easier.
Right. Do you think it was harder on you than your kids?
Yeah, just like everything else. Everything I was worried about, if I would have just...
It wasn't even a factor.
Yeah,
but I was trying, because my ex-wife was so helpful on everything else and didn't help me to, our religious community or people I had known, or the kids' basketball stuff, and she didn't make my life hell. I kind of said, okay, I'll go along with you for this. But if I have a boyfriend, I'm not going to hide it. And I didn't try to hide it. But, one year I remember Evan came with me to the Bunny's check presentation. And I was trying to think, who are the lip kissers in my circle that I need to avoid, or especially Dalton. You got to watch out for Dalton.
Love Dalton. Now, talk to us about Kevin. How'd you meet? What's your relationship like?
Oh, let me get close to this one.
Yeah. Well, there's always a story, right?
Yes.
Kevin and I met at church. Not really. We met online, and he had asked me out, but he asked me to come up to where he was staying because he's a corporate employee for a major food distribution company. It rhymes with Lisco. But he invited me for a drink, and I said, well, where are you staying? And he said, the Greens Point Hilton. And I said, oh.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I said, it's after dark.
Yeah, Greens Point, for any of the listeners who are not from the Houston area, what do they call Greens Point, Shan?
Guns Point.
Yeah. So it's not the safest area, even though it seems like it's starting to gentrify, but yeah.
But, it was like, hey, it's a school night. Tell you what, if you ever come back to Houston and can stay somewhere in better neighborhood, you seem like a great guy. I would certainly consider it.
So
a week later,
were you flirting when you said that, or were you genuine?
I was dead serious. And he understood, but it was real close to where he was working, and they had just a corporate thing that says, okay, you're going to stay at the nearest Hilton or whatever, and they just planted him there. And I don't think he even noticed the neighborhood because he was at work by 7 in the morning and back at 5 or 6 at night, and either got dinner at the hotel or whatever. So he never really noticed. So he sends me a message the following week, and he told me he was staying near Memorial Park. And I said, okay, well, that's
better.
A little better. But our first 3 dates were 2 Astros and 1 Rockets game. And it was like, I can't believe that I found a sporty gay. And it's like, wow, he knows like where these guys went to college and stuff that.
Right. And that's your background. You were in sport. Yeah. So you're just like, whoa, this is crazy.
And this is, and it wasn't like lip service. This wasn't like, okay, I'll sit here. You're really going to watch all 9 innings? Yeah. So
now, and Jack, I want to ask, I know you were online dating. Were you worried about finding someone? Were you kind of, no,
I kind of had like, I don't want to say resigned myself to, I finally had like 2 years earlier, I had met a really nice guy that I went out with for a while. There should have been a whole lot of red flags that I kind of avoided, but because I had a boyfriend, sorry, I air quote a lot. But he ended up moving to Austin, and he was doing great. And it just long term wasn't going to be, what I was, really hoping for. But I got that now, so it was better late than never. It was really interesting. Typically, I dated younger guys, and I don't really have a good why, other than the guys that I hung out with, like with the dad's group, all kind of gravitated to younger guys. So I just kind of went along for
I have a thing for younger ones.
The learning. So as it turned out, Kevin is the oldest guy that I ever dated, but I'm the youngest guy that he ever dated.
Oh, wow. That is complete opposite for y'all. That's so funny.
So even though there's a 15-year difference, it's a lot different than what he used to.
Yeah, what y'all
and I as well. And it was interesting. When I was dating a very younger guy, I got the "is this your son" thing a couple of times. And Mike had taken me in for a little surgery, and the day nurse was asking, she looked at me and said, "Is this your son?" And I was like, he had just played, he was in a rock band that had played the night before at Rudyard's. His mohawky thing was kind of red, dyed. He's from Guam, so he has a lot of skin pigment. And yet, "Is this your son?" Was like, "No, it's my boyfriend." And the nurse was like, "Oh," and she started to, do that backpedal. "Oh, well, I have gay friends." So it was just.
Well, maybe people should just ask, "How are you two related?" instead of automatically assuming. Oh, man.
So I think, I have more hair than Kevin, so that's a good thing. He doesn't look like super, super young, so that's not, I don't think it's the first. I think it's been at least a couple of years since he's gotten that question. I think it was at a baseball game, but it's been really fun. He's a good sport. He's great, like working in Austin. I keep feeling like I've commandeered all his time and energy, but we're trying to get him to sell his house in Metairie in Louisiana and be here full time. I know, if I only knew a real estate agent. The house was supposed to go on the market
all over the world.
I know. Last summer, the house.
Jack knows all the real estate agents. So, okay, we're gonna go into our wrap-up questions now, Jack.
Alrighty. So, you ready?
Ready.
Born ready.
All right.
Rapid fire.
What would you say is your best money habit?
Well, many folks think I'm cheap, but I'm not. It was funny. I used to play this game with my kids all the time, and it would say, "What do you think dinner costs today?" And they'd be like, "Yeah, we want to go to Chewy's. We want to go." It's like, okay, if we all have a burrito and you want queso and you need a Coke, that's $50-$60 out the door. I was like, let's go to HEB. You walk down any aisle. You want a steak, baked potato, salad, whatever you want. I am, and it'll be tastier. And we'll have lunch tomorrow. So my money thing is cook at home. I'm not anti eating out, especially if someone has an expense account. Or
everything in moderation, huh?
Yeah, and I think for me, it's just appreciating. And my mom cooked every night. We still went out to dinner. I don't think you have to, feel like you're missing out. But people, young professionals and stuff, I can't cook. I don't have time or whatever. There's ways around that. And
I mean, HEB even has those meals that you can just stick in the oven and it's done. I mean, there's so many like real. It's salmon and vegetables and really healthy stuff and already seasoned.
I'm a big fan of cooking as therapy kind of thing. And, so I think my money thing is usually around.
So when are you cooking us dinner?
No, Jack is supposed to make us brunch.
Yeah. So this week I made.
Okay.
Yeah. This week I have a French toast recipe that'll.
I can't wait. I love French toast. I've been asking Shan to make me French toast for a long time, but Shan doesn't really cook. So
I actually seen a post. I think it was you. You made like different candies?
Well, I make some. Oh yeah, so for my son's birthday, they all got to pick a dessert. So I make Oreo balls with different flavored Oreos, different flavored coatings. I make this weird chow mein noodle dessert with butterscotch morsels. I love to make cookies. My mom sent me all my old recipes. So again, that's just therapy. And of course, it's not in moderation. It's all like
not that. That stuff is not in moderation. So
I feel like all the gay men love to bake.
Not all of them, but many of them.
A majority of them.
Yes, I would say so.
Yeah.
A lot of them.
So I got that gene. I didn't get the musical theater one so much, but I got the baking.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, this might be the answer to the next question. Might be cooking. I don't know. But what does self-care mean to you? What does that look like to you? What does it mean to you?
Part of it's just mental health without getting, horribly stressed. Which really, sometimes you just have to take time for yourself and figure out what it is that you like to do. And, I have some friends who are anti-gambling, but I love a quick casino trip, whether it's Lake Charles or Vegas, just to get away and recharge and deprogram. Even as a 2-hour car ride, like kind of a car singer, not very talented, but loud.
I love it.
So,
are you the one that I can see driving down the freeway just
yes,
shaking your head? Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I'm not. I'm not. I think it goes back to my relationship with my dad, but he was a liquor salesman. He wasn't a big drinker, but he sort of represented liquor kind of thing. And I didn't learn to hang out with my friends who weren't drinkers either. And so I missed this whole wine. I think I've drank a cumulative total of 20 ounces of beer in my life. If it doesn't taste good, I think I was like weaned on Coca-Cola. If it's not sweet, or I used to have half a shot of vodka and a glass of pineapple juice, and it's like, why am I bothering?
Right,
I'm not drinking to get drunk. I might as well just have a club soda.
Right.
So, but find something. For me, I love to play tennis.
That's awesome.
Cooking.
I need to get back into tennis. I'd love to.
Is that what you do in your spare time?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a combination of things right now because it's hard. There is an LGBT tennis group that plays at Memorial Park.
Oh, really?
Yes. I may have been the former president.
And I mean,
I love to play tennis.
Well, I haven't played in a really long time, but there are all these groups, whether they be LGBT focused or not, but, even
how to get involved.
There are so many people that want to be in a comfortable, open, inclusive circle. And they're all.
It's really funny. There's a couple of fun events that they do. My favorite to tell people about is promiscuous doubles, because you change partners every 20 minutes.
That's so funny.
There's a big, you wouldn't know, I don't know if, you could play in a national or international gay tennis tournament every weekend of the year. So Houston has a tournament in November called the Hutex
Gay
Open.
Tournaments.
Yeah. Dallas
You're blowing
has
my mind, Jack.
I'm telling you, the girls division is underserved.
Really?
You could be a winner in no time. We'll get you back on tour.
I mean, like I said, I haven't played.
No. Yeah, but there's a group in Austin, there's a group in San Antonio, there's a group in Dallas. You can play in their tournament. My doubles partner and I went to New Orleans and played in a tournament. But literally around the country, the USGLTA, the Gay and Lesbian Tennis Association, it's a thing. It costs like nothing to join for the year, and you can play internationally. You can get points to, and it's fun. The people are so nice.
Yeah.
The group here is, I think he's still the president, but Jeremy Fain, one of our local realtors and members of EPA that you might have met. You've made it when they assign you a former women tennis star's name as your nickname. So Chrissy and Martina, and they're all part of the group. But it's fun, and you sort of get, if you show up on a regular basis, you sort of get in with the crowd. All of a sudden, you have a new group of friends, and then you sell them an ad, or you sell them a house.
That's awesome. Kind of going out of order on our questions, but let's do next.
And
go ahead.
I just like to make sure we highlight this one because I think part of our podcast is just to make sure that we're reaching to those LGBTQ plus individuals to give them hope and inspiration and education. So this question that I ask, I just want you to be passionate about it, okay? When you talk about it, what advice would you give to someone in the LGBTQ plus community that wants to advance in their career or level up in their business?
So one of the things I found out not recently, but it's been reinforced recently. One of the things that the networking group that I'm in, EPA, has done is reached out to the oil and gas community. A lot of those folks didn't have a chance to be out. They might have had an AIDS walk team where they could put, the little Shell t-shirt on and be a part of that. But now more than ever before, diversity and inclusion groups are now the norm. And if you do work for an organization that has one, jump into that. If you don't,
it like might be resource groups.
Right, ERGs. And we hosted, about 4 years ago, we had a little cocktail party, and about 5 or 6 companies showed up. This year we had 40 something, including NASA. So, a lot of the last bastions are falling. That if I've got a couple of friends that are in their 60s that, are reaching retirement at ExxonMobil, and they never would have come out. I mean, their HRC score is like negative.
Wow.
But they now have a diversity group, and they can be out, and they can do something. So my advice is figure out where you're comfortable, and it doesn't have to all be done today. Take it, dip your toe, take baby steps. Get in with an organization, maybe volunteer.
Right.
Go to the Bunnies website and see, how you can help. Do you want to be a bartender? Do you want to, take tickets? Do it for an hour or two, or do one shift for 3 hours. Get comfortable and see if it works. If it doesn't, try something else. If you have a area of interest, whether it be volleyball or tennis or flag football.
That's awesome. Did we lose you, Jack? All right. And then our last question for you is, do you have like a favorite book or podcast?
I think he's frozen again.
Yeah. Can you hear us?
Barely. Did we go over time?
No, I think we're fine, but your video is frozen. You want to try turning it off and turn it back on again?
I almost heard you for a minute there.
Can you hear us? Okay, you're back. Do you have a favorite book or podcast?
Well, I love Let's Talk About Gay Stuff with Thomas.
Oh my gosh, yeah, with Thomas.
It's interesting. I just finished a book. It was sort of the coming out story of a professional football player who played for the Patriots, and it was very, I don't know. It was cool and disappointing all at the same time to what in his head, he just couldn't come out, even though he's from California and was bigger than everybody. And, I don't know. I just kind of like these underdog stories and everything there. That whole, love Simon kind of concept. I don't know. Just, again, I keep going back to when I had the opportunity to come out, there just weren't role models. There just weren't examples.
No one's really leading the charge by
right. I mean, if the wink was the two women that lived together as roommates, kind of a thing, but you knew Aunt Cassie was like, who cares? I mean, it's. I don't really care if you've been married 3 times or whatever. It's none of my business. Are you happy? Just be happy. So I tend to look for positive opportunities. I'm more of a documentary and light profile. I'm not a slasher horror scary movie or
right. Me either. I like it light. I like comedies. I like more of that.
I
figured.
And
no,
murder
I can't
mystery, do it. Cold case.
Yeah.
I can't do it. Nope.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah,
Jack. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, I'm good.
Okay, I was just gonna say that's pretty much it. I mean, we're really super appreciative of you coming on and sharing your stories and telling us all about Outsmart and EPA. So much that you do for the community, as well as for where you're working, where you're spending your time in your career. So just tell us, how could our audience get in touch with you if they want to, whether they want to look at doing an ad in the Outsmart magazine or joining EPA, that group, or anything else, or just reach out and have conversation.
Like any good referral, don't call the main number. Call me.
Call Jack directly.
Jack.
Okay.
Yeah, call me directly. My direct line is 281-236-3180. My last name is spelled Berger. Jack. You can send me a message on Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm not on any of those other apps anymore.
Yeah. Do you have an email address,
I'd be in trouble.
Jack?
The best one is jackb at outsmartmagazine, all spelled out, .com.
All righty. Well,
and if you call the office, call early in the morning, like at crack of 9.
All righty.
Oh, we want to thank you for being our guest today, and we really, really appreciate it, and we love you to death. And
thank you.
We want to see those commissions go up and see you flourish.
There's one free French toast casserole that I purchased this month.
I love it. All right, Jack. Well, we'll see you later. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching.
Like, subscribe, and share the video to your friends. In the comment section down below, write how good the video was.
And if you're listening to the podcast, make sure to hit a 5-star review.
Bye.